and really talk about this project I'm going to share with you, the Phusikoi Project. It's pretty exciting for me because I'm, for those of you that know me, I've been an academic. I'm a 7th generation academic on my father's side, and I'm retiring in a year and a half. And we're empty nesting. We have 4 kids. 3 of them are off in college now. The youngest one is at boarding school, a weekday boarder. So we're kind of out. And part of this, there's a project's overview document that I'm going to put into the group at the conclusion of this talk. But I'm going to talk today about this project called the Phusikoi Project, and I'll explain to you the meaning behind it in this presentation. And so very briefly, with this slide, we have kind of arguably where we're born, and the first 12 years of your life, if you've had kids before, you know that your reality is dictated by the environment that your parents set for you. And for those of you that do have kids, when they hit 13 or 14 or so, they hit puberty, and then they kind of leave that environment that you create, and they kind of buy into consensus reality. And most people are happy within the realm of consensus reality, but some people pop out of consensus reality, whether it's through a near-death experience, through some kind of awakening experience, or psychedelics or something, and they pop into this other experience that consensus reality doesn't quite understand yet, and science doesn't quite understand yet. And the point of this talk and this work here is to really look at science again, or to create an environment and to really explore reality, not from the perspective of consensus reality, but for these people that have had these other experiences. And so, and the objective here, unlike a lot of people, a lot of the talks that we've had yesterday, and a lot of people working towards trying to kind of push the needle and convince consensus reality that these other, advanced or more kind of evolved states of consciousness exist, rather than trying to convince the masses, what we're really interested in is developing a community of people that have had these experiences to build kind of the new science from that. And related to that is where the term Phusikoi comes from. And I'll talk a little bit about that later. But the main point here is the objective of this isn't really to convince the masses. These awakening experiences we've found is it's one of those things where if I've had an experience and if you've had an experience, we can kind of talk to each other and kind of get a sense of where each other are at based upon that. And we can talk about experiences that most people would require a lot of convincing to even believe or even fathom. But if I've had an experience and you've had an experience, we can talk about it pretty quickly. But if I've had an experience and you've never had an experience, nothing I say to you is going to give you any idea of what that experience is. And so really, rather than trying to convince the masses, the idea is, can we build kind of a community of people that have had these experiences, develop the new vernacular and the new modalities necessary for kind of exploring reality from this, and then from this to help midwife other people going through these awakening processes and to help integrate, and then from this larger community, then work towards kind of affecting change. And so, so that's kind of the objective of this project. And what we're really looking to do with this project is to create a database of people that have had these experiences that are willing to be studied, and to build a global network of research laboratories, kind of independent researchers or institutions or places where we've got equipment to measure brains, do scans, et cetera, and photon detection, whatever laboratory facilities, but to establish a global network and provide a theoretic framework for bringing people together to investigate these. And for me, I'm jumping a little bit ahead of myself, but the idea here is really to look at developing what I call second-person research methodologies. All of science today is based upon a third-person methodology, but I feel, especially when we're talking about these states of consciousness and people that have done a lot of inner work, second person methodologies are needed. And I'll talk a little bit about that. And then also to establish kind of a network to support kind of this endeavor. And so let me just click on this. This is from a film called Emerging Proud, around these awakening experiences.
Staying inside people's bodies, premonitions, telepathy, feeling deep oneness with all life, knowing people's issues without speaking to them, seeing the cosmos when I closed my eyes. My body would move into spontaneous yoga postures when I meditated, sensing how everything is connected, seeing images of all of human history running like a high-speed slideshow when I closed my eyes, seeing colors and geometric shapes, formulae, symbols behind my eyes when I meditate, flashbacks to past lives, seeing spirits, communicating with loved ones who've passed over, synchronicities, reading the energy of people even when I'm not physically with them, remote viewing, astral projection, and a deep knowing that none of this makes me special.
So this is from a film called Emerging Proud. There's a woman named Katie Mottram that have been really documenting these spiritual emergencies. And the idea behind Emerging Proud is to take these things which normally you would consider shameful, things where maybe I was sent to a mental hospital or something, and I had some kind of experience, rather than being shameful about it, about being able to come out, so to speak, and share the experiences. And so a lot of people all around the world are having these experiences, and they really don't tell anybody about them because they feel that they tried talking to other people, they were considered schizophrenic or bipolar or crazy or something like this. And right now, more and more of these people are coming out, and they're willing to be studied, and they're still trying to figure out what's going on within them. And there's no support for people that have been through these processes. Recently, I had a person that I don't have this ability, but they were able to leave their body. And when they go way out there, they get really, really frightened. And he needed someone to talk to about that. And I was able to hook him up with somebody that also could leave their body and could kind of direct them and kind of provide guidance. And none of that kind of thing, especially for, people that, a lot of people kind of see auras, they hear voices and everything. There's no real support for people that have kind of been through these experiences and have these kind of gifts turn on. And so part of this is for these people that have had these experiences and are coming into these abilities, these realized abilities, to provide kind of support and to build some kind of understanding around it. And so very briefly, I might skip through this. From Deepak's meditation, I think the nut of it was who you truly are is the thing that's aware of all of this. But in how we build our mental worldview and how we understand reality, I'm just going to do kind of the backwards part of what Deepak took us through at the beginning. And so you started out as awareness, and from that awareness, you realized you became aware of your body, and then you became aware of there were surroundings around you, and then you became aware of objects in the surroundings, and from that you developed symbolic consciousness. And so from this, and from our experience of the moment, arguably all there is to everything in the universe at any one moment is what you know from your senses. There's how your body feels, and there's what you know from this mental space and thought. In this mental space that Deepak had us explore, and where is this question that he asked, there's a Jesuit priest named Pierre Teilhard de Chardin that would call this the noosphere. And so evolution-wise, there was the geosphere, and then the atmosphere, and the biosphere, and then this noosphere, and this mental space where our conversation is at, he would call the noosphere. So right now, physically, I'm kind of in my music room, but in this conversation and in this talk, this mental space is the noosphere. Now, as a thought experiment, I'd like you to think of the origins of this noosphere. Imagine biblical Adam or the first stoned ape. And so what happens is they observe nature, they create a mental model, and from this mental model, communication can happen and creation can happen. And so the ancient Greeks were very careful to distinguish between phusis, which are things that happen in nature, and techne that have gone through the filter of the mind. And so if a star in the heavens went supernova, they would say that's Phusis, that star is acting of its true nature because nobody ever touched that star and it's doing its thing, versus literally everything that you see around you came from somebody's mind. And they were very careful to distinguish between Phusis and techne. And so if you look at things in this way, the material world is just Phusis, which is nature, and the collective intention of everyone that's ever existed. And that literally explains everything that's around you right now. Now, if we look at this mental space that we're in, and if you look at it through time, so getting back to that biblical Adam, at that point, the entire noosphere was just their experience of the moment. There was no English language, there was no language, there was no cups, there were no sofas or anything. And what happens is with each generation, somehow knowledge is transmitted from one person to another, from one generation to the next. And as they make new discoveries, the noosphere continues to grow. And so what happens is the material world described in this way is kind of like Minecraft, the video game Minecraft. So it turns out when you were born from that awareness, trying to make sense of the world, you're just like that biblical Adam or that first stone ape. And there's a first part of the world, the first stage of life is to kind of catch up to consensus reality. And so we have to catch up to where consensus reality is, and we have to learn about taxes, about money, and how to board a flight, catch a plane, and all this. And so there's this catching up process, and then there's a letting go of that knowledge and reconnecting to that part of you that already knows. And so, yeah, let me just continue with this. And so we have this model of development, where we catch up to consensus reality, and then you have to break through that, with focus, commitment, and then there's this awakening process, and then there's a refinement of intuition, and then this human potential. So we kind of have a model of development. And generally speaking, there's consensus reality. You have the outliers, any true artist, any true scientist, any true entrepreneur. You have to leave the realm of the known. You have to go into the unknown, discover the fire, bring it back. And then if I'm an outlier that pushes too hard, or if I'm a consensus reality person that has a near-death experience, or let's say, my parents die, I get divorced, and I lose my job all within the space of a month or so, it's going to kind of trigger one of these awakening experiences. And then there's going to be this acute period where for about 2 weeks to a month or so, ideally someone that's been through the process can get to you. If not, you'll probably end up in a psych ward or something. After this awakening, there's a stabilization where you have to kind of get back into your body. You have to then become sustainable. So previously I was a banker, or I was a hedge fund person or something. Now I feel like I should be a healer or like a coach or something. And then beyond that is thriving. And thriving is someone that functions and operates within the modern world and consensus reality, but also has a deep appreciation and understanding of the esoteric. And so on the far left side, the numbers of the stages, and then the middle boxes are kind of a rough description of the path, and then the right side are the structures that I'm working on, and this is what I'll be working on for the rest of my life. This is kind of why I'm here. And the project that I'm here to talk to you about is Project Phusikoi, which is kind of the research. So Antarabhav is kind of this spiritual emergency network done in a better way. A lot of attempts have been made since Christina Groff and everything, but we think we have a good way to support this globally now, especially with technology. Phusikoi is a global decentralized modern mystery school, and then Project Phusikoi is the research to understand and to support that. And that's what the subject of this talk is, Project Phusikoi. And again, the pre-Socratics were the ones that invented Western science and philosophy back when science, philosophy, and spirituality were essentially the same thing, around 585 BC. That's when Thales first rationally predicted a solar eclipse. And the way that the Greeks developed science is, I have an experience, I tell you how I have the experience. Once you and I have both had the experience, we have a common semantic reference, so we can talk about it, and we can start kind of questioning, what is reality? And they were the ones that laid the cornerstones for Western science and philosophy, which is where consensus reality builds most of its understanding of reality. And so really what we're looking at, and so see, these are some of the people. So Democritus is the one that invented the idea of an atom. So the apeiron, or this quantum thing, was Anaximander. So all of these ideas that we have in science were developed by these ancient Greeks. And what I'm saying right now is we have to get back to this level for people that have been through the experience to help develop the new science that's needed, rather than, again, trying to convince the masses, and we can go there too, and there are a lot of people that are working on that. But what I'm interested in right now are basically developing an understanding among these communities of people that have had these experiences, so that we can kind of share and really explore nature from this plateau onward. And so that's what this project is about. And so just to show a couple of the people that have been willing to be studied, this is Alan Forget. He was introduced to me by Peter Fenwick. Peter Fenwick has done a lot of work with him. He studied by himself, had realizations, and then he has the ability now to transmit light. You can sit with him. He'll sit with you and he'll say, "Are you ready?" And you'll say, "I'm ready." And then he does something, and depending on where you're at, either the room will fill with light, he'll go invisible, or when I see him, the background shifts. So he's able to mess with your phenomenology in certain ways. And Peter has been really looking at kind of hyperscanning, intersubjective engagement to try to understand what's going on neurophysiologically with this phenomenon that he's able to do. This is Edd Edwards. He was a natural. He was born and just really explored. He rejected consensus reality and just kept exploring his deep truth. And this was some more research. This is Deepak. I introduced him to Deepak in New York before. That's a picture in the lower left there. But this was taken at Rhine Research, the study above. And there he's got a room, a very dark, it's a analog single photon detector. And if the room is completely empty, you're getting about 3 photons per second. If a person goes in, any person goes in, there's about 20 photons per second that the receptor collects. When Edd goes in, it's about 20 photons per second. And then when you say, "Okay, Edd, do your healing thing," and when he does his healing thing, it goes from 20 photons per second up to about 700 photons per second, and it stays there roughly. And then you say, "Okay, Edd, you can stop now," and it drops down. And that picture in the middle is actually, I was in the lab where they were capturing the data, where he basically told them to stop, and you can see it literally go from where it was around 700 photons per second down to back to 20 or so. And so again, he's been able to transmit energy, and he's healed a lot of people, and he's willing to be studied as well too. This is Stephen Altair. Stephen's actually in this talk right now. We're going to be traveling through Europe, and we'll be in the US later as well too. And this is a study for him. This is taken in Japan. We went and visited some temples in Narita. But if you look at this on the right, there are some graphs here. There's a person baseline, a person on DMT, and then that's on the left graph there. That's Stephen's natural state, and his natural state is similar to a person on DMT. And he's written books. He's a mystic. He's helped a lot of people out that I've brought in that were kind of lost in looking for guidance. And Stephen, you want to say hi real quick? Can you
Sure, yeah. Hi, love and blessings to everybody. And Gino, I just wanted to say what a wonderful opportunity it is to work with you. Gino's mentioned knowing awareness like Deepak, and that's truly what we're exploring together, the one that knows. So Gino, thank you for the opportunity to say hi.
And the fun thing with him in our conversation, in fact, where this picture was taken, what we do is we just sit in deep stillness, and then I just look at what's showing up in terms of opportunities or plans. And then as I'm talking to him, he'll just occasionally see flashes of light. And then right now what we're exploring is when I say something, he gets like a hit of a flash of light, and then we pursue it and we just see where it goes. And so I like to say this is a fun thing I'll talk more about, is when you get a bunch of these people that have had these experiences together, different people have different phenomenological experiences. So Stephen can see light. He sees entities. So occasionally when we're speaking, my father will show up and everything. And he's actually there was a person that he guided through a meditation, and then at the end, her eyes were closed and she saw these Native Americans, and then he pointed out some of the Native Americans that she saw at a distance. And so having people with these unique gifts that science can't quite understand can be really transformative and really helpful for people that are kind of going through the process. And what's needed right now is we need this community of people that are grounded, that have developed these gifts to help other people in their own development. And with that, we're just exploring. We have a great time together. We play, things show up, and we just ask. And what I like to describe is we ask the universe, it's collective questions to the universe that will either happen or they won't, and whether they happen or not relate to us and our relationship with this. So when you have different people with different phenomenological experiences of the moment, how do you kind of bring them together to explore kind of emergence in a collective way? And how do we help people kind of going through this process that may be lost or frightened or confused? And so this is kind of the importance of understanding this, especially for these people that have had these experiences. Another person is Gianni Martire. He's quite interesting. He's the guy standing in the middle here. He's in New York. He was going through a difficult relationship, and his girlfriend convinced him to try DMT. He's dyslexic. He went into DMT. He saw the unity consciousness life. He saw all his past lives, his future lives, and he remembered it all. And then he came back down. He only had a high school level of physics, and then all of a sudden he understood physics to the point where he's been publishing, and he kind of invented this area of mathematics that shows that warp drive is possible. And if you talk to him, he will tell you this, and he's like, oh, you must have figured this out. And he's like, no, I remembered that state that I was in, and I remember this from my past life. One of my past lives knew this. And right now, I think Sony Pictures is doing a film about him. He's also willing to be studied. Previously, he was a Y Combinator exit, and he's and then now I think he's got like 30 mathematicians working with him in developing, taking these downloads that he's been getting and then bringing them to benefit mankind. And so those are just a sample of the kind of people that we're coming across. And I travel a lot, mainly to meet with these people and to actually, this is kind of like what Jeffrey did back when he was studying PNSC before Finders and everything, just really trying to understand what these non-dual states were. And so the other thing is to look at developing a global network of research labs. And recently I've got a paper by Marjorie Woolacott, and she actually has started building a network of a collection of people that are scientists and academics that have had awakening experiences. And for me, I'm very interested in academics that have had these awakening experiences, because that can better inform the research questions and the insights from that. And then also, I think these are necessary if we're considering observer effects. These kind of people as part of the experimental design, I think, are also really important in that, and developing the protocols to study these second person experiences. Again, the reason I bring it second person, it's one of those things where the metaphor is kind of like jazz. If you get 4 top jazz musicians and you put them in a room and you give them a series of chords, you're going to get amazing jazz. But if you get 4 crappy jazz musicians, or one that just learned their instrument last week or something, this being a metaphor for meditation, you're going to get crappy jazz. And so getting people that have done the inner work together to do these investigations, I think, is important, just from a protocol design. And for me, especially for all of you right now, I'm especially interested in retired academics. So I'm retiring in a year and a half. And so my interest right now are people that are kind of post midlife. They know why they're here, and money is no longer an issue. And so especially retired academics, is the processes of you know how to design experiments properly, and you know how to do studies properly, and we're kind of free from the shackles of academia. And so this for me is I'm just reaching out to all of you. This is looking to have fun playmates for the rest of my life here. And so I'm just kind of putting that out there, and really just that's a call out. And so again, here are some of these people in terms of how people end up with these awakening. There are these naturals, people like Edd. There are people that have some kind of deep practice. And then there are some people that have had kind of a spontaneous awakening, or psychedelics, or near death. And these abilities, there are different forms. One is different forms of knowing, so different phenomenological experiences, intuitives, empaths, seers, these kind of people that can mess with your phenomenology or transmit energy. And so like Reiki, Qigong, all of these kind of people that can move things with their minds, and people can regulate temperature and pain. And so these are different kind of abilities that people have been able to develop. Now, an important thing about this is kind of creating kind of a framework to really understand and to be able to communicate. And so for that, for me at least, phenomenologically, there's a difference between the experience of this pillow, there's how my body feels, and there's what's happening in this conversation in this mental realm. And so if you look at it right now, we're all vectors going through space and time, each of us having our own journey, our own experiences. And in this moment, we're kind of meeting in this moment. And these black M's at the bottom represent our physical bodies. The white arrows represent what's being said back and forth. The surroundings, what's happening around us influencing this are the red arrows. And then there's kind of this mental realm of what I know, what you know, and that overlap. And this provides kind of a container for engagement. So as we engage, we're looking at what's being said, where the intentions are coming from, and how the reality or the universe is responding. And what we found is that when you get two people that have done a lot of inner work, letting go in deep stillness, and when you get two people in deep stillness with like an intention held, interesting things happen. And so this allows us to, for some people, especially, there are two types of people I see. Kind of one as a bottom-up person who that you're the awareness of this and you can let everything go. I know I'm out of time, right, Jeffrey? And then the other are these top-down people that get these downloads and everything. And we need a container because just to minimize conflict, et cetera. And so providing a container. So right now we're kind of growing a community. We've been doing a lot of things kind of around the world. This is just, we have models, ways of intervening for people going through a spiritual emergency. As I mentioned, we're developing kind of new methods of engagement that leverage different gifts. We're also developing frameworks for second-person research methodologies. I just got 2 32-channel dry contact wireless EEG headsets that are portable, so we can capture data anywhere around the world. We're growing the community, and right now, the exciting thing is that there's funding now. A lot of people that are interested in this. I was just recently the picture. There's a guy, Anton Bilton, who's funded intravenous DMT, basically to do first contact with aliens, rather than building spaceships and going to other.
Okay, Gino, on that note, I got to cut you off. No,
okay, so
I got a button, Gino. I don't have to carry it this time.
So here, okay, I'll take the slide. And then, yeah, thanks.